Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're gonna have a look at Luna. This will be more of an introductory level guide. Essentially, I'm just gonna go through all of her mechanics so you understand exactly, is this the kind of Descendant for you, or should you give her a skip? Let's start off by talking about her kit, since I'm assuming this is probably gonna be the more, let's say, confusing part to Luna. Stage Presence. Essentially, this is a skill weapon that she spawns, and using Stage Presence, you're going to be able to activate all of your buffs. I'm talking about Exciting Act, Relaxing Act, and Cheerful Act. We're going to refer to these a bit more simpler. We're going to go Red Buff, which gives you Skill Power, Blue Buff that gives you MP Recovery, and finally Purple Buff that gives you CDR or Cooldown Reduction. Now, of course, they do a bit more than that, but let's get back to the actual Stage Presence. Equips a unique weapon. It will be unequipped when MP is fully depleted or all bullets have been fired. Now, thankfully, the whole bullet part, you don't really need to worry about it all that much, because every single time you activate one of the buffs, Exciting Act, Relaxing Act, or Cheerful Act, you're going to be getting 10 additional bullets. We're going to be focusing more on the supporty side of Luna, and we're going to leave a damage build for some other time, but we will still touch on a couple of things. If you want to talk about damage, take a look at the damage here. Skill power 194.4, skill power right now 152.3. That is because we have reduced skill power for Luna. When the unique weapon is equipped, Notes activates, allowing the use of skills. Notes can be hit through shooting and skill use. If the skill button is not pressed at the right time, the skill will fail to activate and it goes into a cooldown. Not only that, if you take a look at these skills, if you fail the right activation, you're going to be getting yourself a larger cooldown. Take a look on Note Failure. Look at that. Cooldown 15 seconds instead of 6 seconds. Again, 20 seconds instead of 7 seconds. Or on Cheerful Act, a massive 80 seconds if you manage to fail that one. So be careful on the last one, on the cooldown reduction. This one, depending on who you're rolling with, can be the most powerful one. Because here's the thing. It's not enough to know Luna. In order for you to be a proper support using her, you also need to know exactly who you're paired up with and what they stand to benefit most from. So let's say you're paired up with a bunny. More skill power for bunny is going to be meaning more damage. So the skill power modifier or the red buff, fantastic. What about that MP recovery? Also fantastic, because the more mana she has, the more she can run, therefore the faster she can deal damage. What about the last one though? Well, cooldown reduction for Bunny, not really all that good, since if you play Bunny properly, especially into a boss Bunny build, you should have your free ability up all the times. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, link in the cards are now for a full and detailed guide on Bunny. Successfully hitting Notes grants Perfect Pitch, and this Perfect Pitch essentially is a skill power modifier. Per stack 1%, maximum of 25 stacks. If a note is not procced on time, you're going to be losing 1%. If you miss, again, losing 1%. But it's best to see exactly how this one works in actual gameplay. Activate your first ability and you have yourself your own gun. We're gonna go into how the gun works some other time, but for the time being, if you're interested in just dealing damage with the gun, go for skill power, 100%. For now, again, we're focusing on the supporty part. So right now, I'm not forced to do anything. I don't need to shoot anything, and the notes just keep going upwards. If I manage to hit the note properly, I got Perfect Pitch, and you can see the buff stacking up, like so. Now let's say I miss. Oh no, I missed. Did you see what happens to my mana? My mana is going down. So what do I want to do? I want to hit them exactly when that note is in the middle. But take a look at my crosshairs. You see it has these little lines. Essentially, if any note barely touches the line, you can press the trigger and it'll still be fine. Oops, I ran out of bullets. In order for me to not run out of bullets, I'm gonna have to cycle all of my buffs to keep on getting that ammunition. Again, nobody's forcing me to shoot, however, your buffs do have a duration. Let's say I'm gonna be going for the red buff. In order to activate it, once again, I need to hit that note perfectly. If I miss it, oh no, my buff did not activate, instead it went on that punishing cooldown. Let's try another buff, the blue one, for mana regeneration. There you go. And now you can see the range all around you. Keep in mind that this is base level range. So essentially, if your allies wants to get the mana regeneration buff, they need to get within your range. However, after they get out of the range, the buff will still last for a couple of seconds. And if you're ever unclear how long do they last, take a look at the lower portion of the explanation. You have relaxing sound duration 5 seconds, and the enhanced version we'll talk about later. All of the buffs have an enhanced version or a powered up version. What you see from relaxing performance is what you get for Luna. What you see in relaxing sound is what the party gets. Those two are not the same. Again, for the red buff as well, you got yourself exciting sound. What the party gets, exciting performance is what you get. And finally, for the purple buff or the CDR, buff. Cheerful sound is what the party gets. Cheerful performance is what you get. Now let's say I want to keep my buffs up all the time. Boom, 10 extra ammo, fantastic. And I'm gonna start shooting. I'm gonna start stacking up that 25% skill power modifier. And oh no, let's say I'm running out of ammo. I need to switch to a different buff or reactivate the current one. I'm not forced to go to a different buff. However, every single time I successfully change my song, I'm gonna be getting under my mana bar an additional resource. Have a look. When that bar is full, I'm gonna be able to do an empowered version of any of these songs, and those can be extremely powerful. Since we're talking about her secondary resource, that one is called Inspiration. When using a skill to hit a note, Inspiration gauge goes up. When the Inspiration gauge maxes out, an enhanced skill can be used. When out of combat, this Inspiration gauge will drop down. Now, if a couple of these nodes go by and you're not hitting them, yes, you will drop that skill power modifier, but you can easily build it back up. What you really need to keep an eye on is how long do these buffs actually last, so you don't go back to the standard state, as in this one. So, make sure you keep an eye on cooldowns, make sure you keep an eye on duration. If by this point this is a bit too much for you because in a boss fight you wanted me to pay attention to this and the durations and everything else, yes. Luna essentially, from my point of view, is a bit more of an advanced too, not only in gameplay but also in the knowledge that she needs. So technically you can give your entire party all of the buffs depending on what you're doing. Now I want to show you an empowered ability. My bar is filled. Let's say I want to give skill power. Boom. She goes into this little dance. These dances are different depending on which buff you have equipped. Let me show you. The problem with activating an empowered ability, powerful as it may be, it kind of locks you into that silly animation. Time in which the boss can like nuke you down. So there is that to bear in mind. Those are the basics to playing Luna. So what do I do in actual gameplay? Pretty simple. I try to keep all of the buffs up all of the time as much as I can and to help my teammates with as many empowered casts as I can. So in order for me to cast as many empowered buffs as I can, I'm gonna have to switch between the buffs very frequently. Keep in mind that the duration will depend on your mods, so you're gonna try to keep everything up on your party at all times, and your party needs to understand that they do need to be in range. The empowered buffs have an extra effect, however, if they're not in the range when you cast, they will not receive that empowered effect. For example, an empowered purple buff resets cooldown completely. I mean, talk to Olympic about that. It's, or can be better said, absolutely bloody glorious. Don't think about your damage too much, and don't think about having to hit every single little note perfectly. Sometimes mistakes will happen. It's not a big deal, you can build it back up. What is important, however, make sure you hit the right empowered note depending on your team. For example, right now I'm gonna use the blue one, a whole lot of mana regeneration. If I go right now to the purple buff again, keep in mind the special ability of this one, as long as I'm hitting enemies with the notes on time, I am building up my secondary resource bar like a truck, and boom, once again, I can cast another empowered buff. Those are the basics to playing Luna. Is this the character for you? Well, I can't really say that. I can give you my first impressions after about 6 hours of playing this character. She's definitely a more advanced level character. There's simply a lot more going on, especially if you go for the support route. There are specific modules for her, Transcendent modules, that will change her gameplay entirely. I didn't manage to test those just yet, but when I do and I have all the information, I will bring you my usual full and detailed build guide. For the time being, what you gotta ask yourself, can you handle boss fighting and paying attention to essentially everything while all of this goes on? Keep an eye on cooldowns, keep an eye on the nodes changing, knowing exactly what's off cooldown when and what's the empowered node that you want to do next. If that sounds fun to you, then Luna is gonna be your character. If not, if this seems like a bit too much, then perhaps you should be looking at something like a bunny. Hey, no shame in playing bunny. Look at the cards there now for a full and detailed guide on bunny. Now let's have a look at an introductory level build. We do have an energy activator in Luna, so your mod capacity right now is 70 at max level of 40 with mastery rank of, what am I, 17, 18, something of the sort. But we haven't used any of the crystallization catalyst. By default, she comes with 2 polarity, an M polarity, and an X polarity, and those can work for you or not so much. So let's talk about how you're gonna actually build her. In this slot, please use whatever you feel you're more comfortable with. Just keep in mind that this increases your mod capacity, so you will have to have something here ideally. I go with long distance maneuvering because this one is the one that I'm most comfortable with. Increased HP and increased defense. Essentially, these are not really negotiable. This mod, however, doesn't really show up all that much. We don't really use max MP on mostly anything. Does Luna need max MP? Absolutely not. However, max MP helps with the potency of the buffs that you give your allies, and again, this is a supporty-like build. If you take a look at the buffs, the first and the second buff, the red and the blue one, take a look at how they scale. Skill power increase is by max MP times 7.5% for the enhanced version and 3.5% for the standard version. If you take a look at the blue one or the MP recovery, you're looking at max MP times 0.7 per 1 seconds or max MP times 13% plus the additional max MP times 2.6 per 1 second. So essentially max NP helps a lot when it comes to buffing your allies. HP conversion is another mana mod that normally we don't really use. This one gives you 20% with max HP minus 50%, and again the two can coexist because this is an MP mod and Enlightenment is only a normal mod. And there's also shield conversion, which I'm guessing is going to be tempting a whole lot of you guys because shield right now in the game is simply not all that fantastic. Maximum MP fully maxed out 15% and reduces shield by 70 something percent, though keep in mind only one MP conversion will be active at a time, so you can have both of the conversions. Keep in mind you can get max MP in your auxiliary or external component slots as well. Next up, maximize duration. A whole bunch of duration, 40%. The problem with this one, skill power modifier minus 21.1%. As a support, if you're building support, you don't really care about your damage, and the skill power modifier only will be affecting the damage that you do with stage presence, which is why we're going for this one. If you're not comfortable and you still want to deal a bit of damage, you can swap this one out for the standard skill extension, which is 36.5. I mean, the difference between the two, 3.5%, doesn't really matter all that much. Maximize range, you will have to get some range on this one. It's not the only range mod. This one again takes away skill power, and we don't really care about that one so much for a support build. The standard range mod is going to be skill expansion. The difference between the two, again, minute. However, these two can coexist. Yeah, so if you want to cover as much as you can of the battlefield, this will be relevant to use both of them. Keep in mind that some boss arenas are just simply huge and not everybody will understand that they need to stay in range of Luna for them to get the actual benefits. So in a future build, using the two might not be such a bad idea. And of course, cooldown reduction with Nimble Fingers. Not the only cooldown mod, but again, for a basic level build, this is your starting point. And that's pretty much gonna do it for an introductory to Luna. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this Descendant? Is she a bit too much, or is she the one you've been waiting for? As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And yes, we will be back with a more advanced Luna guide later. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye!